This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy, How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. I'm Michael Lauber, sitting in tonight for Dr. Jamie Glazov. Thank you for the opportunity again, Jamie, to sit in here for you. And I want to remind our audience, this is a fan-generated show. We rely on your generous donations in order to create the Glazov Gang, to bring you the guests, bring you this information. Now, the best way to keep us on air is by going to jamieglazov.com and making a contribution there. Now, before we get started on the show, I do have one other announcement to make. Did you pack on the pounds this winter? Is it time to make a difference and change your life? If you want the best trainer in the LA area, then you need to reach out to James Richardson at 541-331-0252. Now, if you aren't in the LA area, he also does online training. So it's time to get in the best shape of your life. He'll train you anywhere in the world. So call James Richardson now at 541-331-0252. And without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, host of Right Hook, Steve Hook.
Hello, Michael Lauber. How are you, sir? Good to see you, my friend.
Oh, just another day in paradise over here. And before we get into the main topics we're going to get into tonight, I want to bring up, yet another victory, something that was said to be impossible by the Biden regime. I understand they've just brought home a gentleman that was being held hostage by the Taliban for the last 2 years. And there was little to no effort on the Biden regime's part to bring this gentleman home. And it took, just over a month of firm negotiations to get him returned home to safety.
How does it feel to be back on U.S. soil?
I'm amazed. I feel like born again. I have no words. But anyways, I'm in debt with the President Trump. Amazing. Thank God he's in the White House where he's at, and thank God he got me out. Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, Adam Boehler. I'm in debt with everybody that was involved in this situation because they got me home. A free American individual, freed from the hands of these people that abducted because of my U.S. passport, basically. And I'm just thankful.
Yeah, George Gelsman, here.
Yeah. And again, it isn't just him. I mean, this has been one in a series of people that were left behind or ignored for the last 4 years. It's yet another victory. I'm sure we're going to see more, but it shows you what the difference is when somebody plays serious and doesn't just, bow down and run away from America's enemies.
Yeah. Well, an auto pen can't threaten to blow up a terrorist house. An auto pen can't say, "Hey, buddy, I'm watching you live as we speak via satellite link comm, and time to get your ass in gear." That's all I can assume, because Biden was DOA for the for the first and last 4 years of his administration. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, the auto pen brings up, another good point here too, is, we've been calling him the auto pen president, and it really calls into question who exactly was in control of that auto pen. Was it a Barack Obama? Was it all his cabinet of clowns, his advisors? We saw, and again, I blame Johnson for this, Speaker Johnson. He had a meeting with Biden over a year ago where he already knew the guy's brain was broke. He wanted to discuss an executive order that Biden allegedly signed that would have cut off some of the LNG, liquid natural gas, that was going over to our allies in Europe through the ports in Louisiana. He wanted to talk to Biden because this has caused huge economic turmoil in Louisiana. And Biden had no idea what he'd signed. He thought it was an executive order to research things. So what I want to know is his brain broken? Did he just not remember this? Did they lie to him about what was in it? Or did he sign this executive order at all? Was even aware that this was going on, and he was just trying to, CYA, so the rest of his handlers didn't get caught. But this really just shows the central problem, and Johnson kept it to himself.
Yeah, well, Johnson, I think listen, I agree with you on that, but I also think that Johnson realized at that time his hands were kind of tied. He didn't have any control. But I do wish he would have been a little bit more outspoken about it. But what really pisses me off isn't so much that Mike Johnson didn't say it. It's that not a single Democrat said it. Nobody in the White House press pool said it. You asked Michael, and a very good question, who was running the show? Was it Obama? Was it a cadre of clowns? Was it Valerie Jarrett? Was it Susan Rice? Yes to all of those. Yes to all of those is my answer.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the different people pushing his buttons. He just wanted to smile in front of the cameras to play president. His wife, Dr. Jill Breakfast Taco Biden's, she's the one that wanted the power. She wanted the prestige of being the first lady. I think she was the one still pushing him. I really want to know too. Is she the one that authorized the pardons for renowned Ukrainian and energy expert and crackhead Hunter Biden? Did Jill push those pardons? Was it somebody else? Because we know now Biden wasn't in the office. He was out of the country. He was at playing golf. Not in St. Croix or somewhere. I think.
He was in the Bahamas or something, or the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah. So he couldn't have signed these pardons. Was even aware that they were signed, and does that make them invalid now?
Well, yeah, that's going to be the question, isn't it? And as we look at what these district court judges and appellate court judges and people that nobody knows are, I love the Babylon Bee, Michael, you're going to kick out of this, posted a great meme with the picture of a guy in a black robe, and it says, district court judge announces that he's the new president. They really are doing everything to stop Trump. But you can't, it's like trying to, drink out of a fire hydrant with this guy, because he's doing so much so quickly that no matter how much they try and stop him, he's on to the next thing. And, oh, by the way, we're going to come back to that thing you're trying to stop right now. One thing I would say about Trump this time around, Michael, is he's not only surrounded himself with just an A-grade cabinet. I don't think there's a bad pick among the bunch. We could kind of nitpick about we wish this would have happened differently, but for the most part, the cabinet is strong. But he's also got an incredible legal team around him right now that he didn't have heretofore. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But Trump is going to make his moves. Trump is going to Trump.
Well, yeah. And the Babylon Bee has been on point with some of these headlines, especially concerning these judges. I love the ones they've had over the last couple of days where a federal judge orders astronauts to return to space.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Federal judge. I can't even remember now. But anyway, these judges are the other problem that's out of control. And as we're starting to learn now, between what Schumer, he let the guard slip the other day, said they'd installed, I think it was 235 progressive activist judges. And
for this very reason.
Yeah, they're now there to stymie Trump's agenda. And this is the thing. Trump is trying to put forward the American people's agenda, what a majority of us voted for and support. And the support for his agenda continues to grow since November. So it's not like the people don't know what they're getting themselves into. His popularity continues to grow, and support for everything that Doge is doing, dismantling this money laundering and fraud organization that was, woven within our government. All that continues to grow. But these activist judges, they're there. Trump wants to push the American people's agenda forward. These judges in the left, they want to force their agenda onto the American people. It's so backwards from the way the country is supposed to operate. And the fact that these are inferior court justices trying to interfere with powers that are clearly designated to the president and the executive branch. It's getting to the point of being absurd. But we're now at literally hundreds of over 100 injunctions at this point from these activists. At what point do we have to just say, you know what, we're going to ignore your rulings since these are all invalid anyway, since right now you're just making a game, you're abusing our legal system. Every one of these is going to get overturned once it gets up to a real judge that actually wants to do their job, interpret law instead of trying to make law and legislate from the bench.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree with you more. The only sticking point here is Chief Justice Roberts and maybe his tag along new justice. What a disappointment she has been. What's her name? Amy Coney Barrett. Yeah, she's really just kind of along for the ride now. We had such high hopes for her, but I think that it will. I think you're absolutely right, Michael. I think once SCOTUS gets a hold of this, they're going to have to really dig deep. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you've got justices like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito and God bless him, Neil Gorsuch, these guys they're originalists, and they're going to say, Franklin didn't tell that woman when they came out of the Constitutional Convention that we have given you a democracy if you can keep it. They said we've given you a republic if you can keep it. And they're trying to turn that on its head and say Trump is a threat to democracy. He is a representative of a representative republic. He won the majority of the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. He won all 7 swing states. And now Schumer, as you rightly point out, lets the cat out of the bag that, hey, guess what? We've basically stacked the deck against him on circuit courts and appellate courts, and we're going to slow walk his agenda. So Trump comes out yesterday and basically tells Chief Justice Roberts, get off your ass and do something about this, because they're trying to slow down the work of the American people. And I just hope that it gets fast-tracked to SCOTUS quickly.
Well, I don't remember this story broke Wednesday or Thursday, but we learned recently that apparently Chief Justice Roberts is in the same little private invite-only club for elite judges, including at least three of the judges right now that are trying to block Trump's efforts in every way possible, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, many other noted leftists. So I wonder now, will this also be grounds now? If they're in this private club that's communicating with these other judges and a lot of leftist elite lawyers, now when these cases do get up to the Supreme Court, Trump would not be out of line to demand that Chief Justice Roberts and at least Ketanji Brown Jackson now recuse themselves off these cases, since they've been interfering with them through the lower courts this whole time, that their fingerprints are already on them. So that, I think, is a card that Trump should certainly play, because that gives him a massive advantage once things do go to the Supreme Court. And what I like even more about it is this is going to make even more leftist Democrats' heads explode as now they see this as Trump rigging the game. But it's a game, it's rules that are already established that they don't want to play by because they don't work out in their favor.
Well, exactly right. I mean, that's exactly the point. And that's why Schumer, God bless him. Here's a guy that stands up, and for once in his pathetic life, he does the right thing and says, we're not going to shut the government down. Now, he didn't do it because he's this benevolent guy that gives a rip about the American people. He did it because he cares about the future of the Democratic Party, and he wants to see them be able to do something in the midterms. But the way they've treated Schumer, now Schumer's coming out again with flames coming out of his eyeballs and ears as he screams about how much of a thug Trump is. He's doing anything and everything he can to win his way back into the hearts of these miserable leftists. It's not going to work for him because they eat their own for breakfast. And now Schumer is trying to play the tough guy again, but he let the game slip. He said, we have installed these judges, or words to that effect, and now we all know what the game is. And I think you're right. Trump ought to say, hey, Chief Justice Roberts, you ought to consider recusal. Same goes for you, Justice Jackson. Now, whether they will or not is a different story, but something's got to give, because these injunctions cannot stand. This is just absurd.
Yeah, agreed. And well, I think that's also the other reason Schumer and other Democrats starting to get nervous, and you're starting to see breaks, chinks in their armor, so to speak, that there's a few now that have started to peel off and speak out against some of this activity, because some of these things these judges are trying to interfere with are powers that are clearly given to the president. Like, for example, like this wacko judge now that today is trying to create more problems about the transgender military ban and trying to institute policy of her own, and is there on the bench screaming at Trump's attorneys and not letting them talk. Like, this is not a good look for the left. And when the average voter in America sees this, they see these dingbats for exactly what they are, that they're just unhinged, rabid communists that have been foisted into power by the Democrat Party, instead of getting somebody there that was an actual viable judge. Same with many of the other ones that are making equally insane rulings that overstep the bounds of the courts. Whether this is personnel policy, first this judge said, "Oh, you can't just close down Doge and put it under the State Department." Then we have an employee from Doge resign his position there and get appointed to a high position within USAID, and then the same judge is now throwing up his hand saying, "Well, you can't put a Doge employee in there. I said you had to reopen it. I didn't say that." He wants to even dictate personnel policy, and sorry, they don't get to. That's not their role. Let's see them try to enforce some of these rulings they're making. Maybe their bailiff can handle it.
I got to say, Michael, as you were speaking there, it just flashed through my head that the Democrat Party and the left in general, it kind of reminds me of the scene of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the Black Knight is, "You shall not pass," and then whoop, they off with an arm, and it's merely a flesh wound. Well, they are the Black Knight standing on the stumps of their former platform, screaming that they're going to bite our ankles. I mean, that's where they are right now, and they are fueled by hate of Trump, hate of Elon Musk, hate of capitalism, hate of cis white males, hate of the patriarchy. I don't know. Just pick your hate of the day. It's like they wake up every morning, open the medicine cabinet, and take a handful of whatever particular hate they want to focus on that day, and it's infected not only their base, thankfully their shrinking base, but it's not only affected their base, it's affected the judges, it's affected the politicians, it's affected the media. They're just awash in this teeth gnashing white knuckle hatred, and you don't win votes that way.
No. And, one thing I would like to see the Trump administration do a better job of, though, is articulating that the executive branch does have authority and a certain amount of leniency to enforce law. And all we have to do is go back to, let's start with the Obama administration. You remember that's when Colorado and some of these other states started enacting their own medical marijuana rules originally, and then I think the personal use stuff started still back then for Colorado and some other states. And Barack Obama elected not to have his DOJ prosecute anyone in Colorado for violating the federal law. So this is a purview that's always been given to presidents. Biden, once he got in, he chose not to enforce border laws and border policies. Again, even though that is something that's the executive is tasked with under our Constitution, it is a direct obligation of the executive branch. He chose to ignore those laws. So this is something that's been done by the executive going back since the founding of the country, really, of how they execute the law and what they enforce has been left to them. But now that it's Trump in there, suddenly we have all these judges trying to jump in and make them jump through hoops, make them do it their way, and this can't stand. It'd be one thing if the Republicans had the cojones to actually do this back to the Democrats next time. Well, I don't know that they'll ever get a president in again. I'll be honest. I think their party's pretty close to done for, since they can't just get back to reality and retask and get on a message that resonates with the American people. I think we're going to continue to see them collapse. But enforcement it is a tool that is under the executive branch, and it's their purview to how they're going to enforce that. Probably part of the reason we're in this mess right now is Congress, doesn't want to do their job. They've shirked so much of their responsibility off to these government agencies, and they're, instead of allocating money for specific things, specific tasks as designed, instead a lot of these are just general funds. Well, unfortunately for them, now that Trump's in office, those general funds he can now disperse as he sees fit, since Congress refuses to do their job and allocate spending.
Well, here. I mean, exactly right. I mean, they are, and I agree with you. They may well be in the death throes of their party. They could be going the way of the Whigs or the Know Nothing Party. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just they're circling the bowl and they're leaving skid marks, Michael. And and I'll tell you, you mentioned something about that is absolutely spot on correct. When Obama was president, when Biden was president, hell, when Bush was president, even Clinton was president, judges and justices tend to give deference to the executive power. This is the way it's always been. And our problem on the right is our judges and our justices that kind of align with us. They adhere to that. They say, well, and Lindsey Graham is one that will famously vote for every single nominee put forth by Obama or Biden because he says this is the way a collegiate house should work. Well, they don't play those rules. And the thing is I think Trump, and I talked about this on my show the other day, that fight, fight, fight image, which will go down as one of the most, if not the most iconic images of 21st century American politics, with the fist in the air, the blood coming down the side of his face, shouting, fight, fight, fight. Maybe Trump is teaching them, and I think he has. Just take a look at John Thune. He's turned around a big way since Trump has come back into office. Maybe he's teaching them how to fight. Now, whether their judges will do it or not, that's another a whole other kettle of fish.
Agreed. Well, yeah, and I would like to see more of these useless rhinos or undocumented Democrats in both the House and the Senate learn how to grow a spine and stand up for themselves. I do think this next election is going to be pivotal, and I do think we're going to be able to clean out a lot of the filth in D.C. But guys, we do have to take a quick break, hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with more.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, best way to support the Glazov Gang is by supporting our sponsors. And you can do that by going to MyPillow or mystore.com and using code GG21. Helps you support everything that Dr. Jamie Glazov is able to bring you here. And it helps support great patriot Mike Lindell as he continues his fight for free and fair elections, which I have a feeling we're going to have some pretty big updates on here over the next couple of weeks. Well, to get back to the task at hand, I want to kind of shift over a little bit because, over the last few weeks, we've really seen the Democrat Party get back to their roots. Their roots is the party of terrorism, discrimination, violence, going back to their founding. And we've got to remember, the Democrat Party following the Civil War, they had their terrorist wing, the Ku Klux Klan. At the time, it was blacks, Jews, and Catholics that were in their crosshairs. I mean, the target of their aggression has shifted from time to time over the years, but they always have to have someone to hate. It was the rich, now it's white people, and apparently Asians too. But we're really seeing them act in full force right now as the Tesla terrorism continues, and the lunacy is just on full display.
Yeah. Once upon a time, Democrats burned crosses in people's yards. Now they burn Teslas in people's yards. You're right. The targets have changed. The tactics haven't changed. This is who they are. This is their party history. Every single Jim Crow law was written by a Democrat. Every single white water fountain, that sign was put there by a Democrat. All of this crap. Now, of course, they've, the one thing that I always get whenever this gets brought up, Michael, and I'm sure you get this a lot too, is the parties switched. The parties switched. No, the hell the parties didn't switch. What happened was the Democrats quickly realized, hey, you know what? We can just flip the game. We'll just play differently. We'll use different tactics, which is what they have done with regards to trying to convince people that Republicans are a bunch of racists. It's not true, but they've convinced enough of their willfully blind and even worse, willfully stupid supporters that's the way it went, and that's not the way it went. And I don't want to get into a big, long history lesson here, Michael, but I'll just say this. One of the things that they love to say is that it all changed in 64 with Barry Goldwater, because Barry Goldwater spoke out against the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which he did, but he did for all the right reasons. It was a warning. He said, you don't understand what these people are going to do. They're going to create a serfdom class. They're going to create a dependent class, and that dependent class will be beholden to them. He tried to warn people about this. They called him cruel. They called him a racist, and everything that he warned about, every bit of it actually, is exactly what happened. So here we are now.
Well, yeah, not to mention the whole other part of the myth for the parties flipping, where, Arlen Specter, and I can't remember the other guy's name, two Democrats in the North that, were not down for all the Jim Crow laws and racism. Pressure was put on them, and they changed parties because they were closer to aligned with the Republicans. They were fiscally conservative Democrats like JFK was, and they weren't down with a lot of the other stuff that was going on within the DNC. They didn't relate to the racist side of the Democrat Party, so they changed. So yeah, there are some Democrats that came over to the Republican side, but certainly not for the reasons the media in the left today tries to portray.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Lester Maddox died a Democrat. George Wallace died a Democrat. The only Dixiecrat of note that flipped was Strom Thurmond, and Strom Thurmond repudiated all the racist crap that the baggage that came along with being a Dixiecrat. I don't defend Strom Thurmond; he's long dead. But it just goes to show you, when you have Hollywood in your back pocket, when you have the media in your back pocket, you can basically boldface lie to the American people, and you're going to get cover. And they've had that cover for a long time, and now the mask is starting to slip.
Well, that's the other big thing that I think has really affected change for the Republicans and the country in general is, for the last several years, we watched our media, these, Democrats masquerading as journalists, as I like to say. We watched them repeatedly lie to the American people over and over again, and eventually the normies and the people in the middle started to wake up. When 87% of your coverage, or 89%, I always get these numbers backwards, about Trump is negative, and 89% about Kamala is positive. People's bells start to go off. They see that they're being played, and again, not to mention even post-election, everything Trump does, they act like it's the end of the world. They act like it's like this is going to be the downfall of America, and then of course things always work out what Trump intends to happen. That's what the end result, like, for example, with the tariffs, Canada and Mexico now backing off of their threats repeatedly because they're a negotiation policy. Whereas, our media portrays it as this going to be economic doomsday, blah, 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 blah. None of that ever comes to fruition. Like, the normiers are waking up. The Democrats don't have the air cover they've counted on for the last several years. Our social media platforms are opening back up. Maybe they're not perfect. And again, they don't need to be perfect. All they need to do is have enough for us to get our message out, because it isn't about winning over the hardcore radical leftists that right now are setting Tesla dealerships on fire, shooting up cars, and these retards keep getting caught on. You guys know the Teslas have something called Sentry mode, where they're whatever it is, 9 cameras, 11 cameras are on, catching you guys key these things. I assume most of them have figured that out by now after these first 3 were arrested, and look, 2 out of the 3 were transvestites. Go figure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be more arrests coming, more people getting sentenced, and then they act like that their acts of terrorism are legitimate forms of protest. And our protest, or posting a meme online, they want to pretend that is an act of terrorism. These people are so upside down and backwards that the middle just isn't buying it anymore, and they're starting to see them for these mentally ill people that they are.
Yeah, well, Democrats know more than anybody else that the best women are men, I guess. Yeah, and it's funny that they do kind of gravitate towards this, and I think that's because that's all they've got left. When you don't have many bullets left in the chamber, and all you've got is hate and division, Well, let's load another round of that. And I agree with you. It's not working in large part thanks to shows like Jamie's show here, the Glazov Gang, and Ex-American News and other outlets. People are turning off the mainstream media. People have figured out the game. I used to say this on my radio program, 15 years ago. I used to say people need to understand the media is a business. They cater to an audience. They specifically target that audience. And therefore, the news that you get from, and by the way, this includes Fox News. I think Fox is better than most of them for sure. But there's no doubt that Fox caters to center-right people. And by the way, that's most of the country. So naturally, the ratings follow. But MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, all of these people, Slate magazine, for God's sakes, all of the View, hello, they all know who their audience is, and their audience are a bunch of rainbow-haired freaks that are currently setting Teslas on fire in order to to say that Elon Musk is Hitler, I guess. I mean, we're gonna act out crystal knocked on every Tesla dealership to prove that Elon Musk is Hitler. Stupid,
Yeah.
but there you go.
Well, and I love how they're just eating their own in this too. Their fellow travelers. I guess the environment wasn't that important after all. I heard something, and I don't know. I guess I should have fact checked this first. But like these Tesla dealership fires, with all the chemicals and everything else that threw off into the air because of the batteries, is the equivalent amount of pollution is 1,000 flights from New York to London or something.
That sounds fine to me. Yeah, let's go with it. That statistic works. But it is whether that stat is correct or not is irrelevant, because the damage they're doing is unbelievable, not only to their own party and their own cause, but to the environment that Mother Gaia, who they worship. It's pretty sick, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah. Well, I love Tim Walz too, coming out here saying he's got the stock trading app on his phone now, showing him the Tesla price as it drops and drops. And he used that for inspiration throughout the day. Well, I guess nobody told him his pension fund in Minnesota has something like I can't remember if it was 100,000 or I think it was 1 million shares of Tesla. Like that's a huge percentage of the pension fund for him and all the other state employees. And now they're just watching that money go down the drain as Tesla's stock price falls. But it's only going to hurt them, and they're not going to be able to do enough damage to bankrupt the company or do anything serious because they're still selling these vehicles like hotcakes. I'm sure it's slowed down a little bit because now all these people are, foaming at the mouth, angry that somebody had the gall to go into the federal government and investigate all their money laundering. And they're, upset that Elon Musk, had the common sense to back Trump. He saw the direction the Democrats were taking us and knew we wouldn't have a country in 4 more years if Kamala Harris had been in office. Elon Musk is a pretty smart guy, but I wouldn't consider him really right wing. I mean, I do think he's kind of leaning that way now, but this guy was a lifetime Democrat.
Sure.
Same with Joe Rogan. All these other people they flushed out of their party with their insanity, and they're wondering why they can't make that back up or find the next billionaire genius to support them. They're now making fun of the tech bros that used to all be in their back pocket because they've pushed everybody out with their insanity, with the LGBTQ tranny madness, the environmentalism, the attacks on free speech, and they're pushed towards fascism, totalitarianism.
Yeah.
What really underlines and underscores everything the Democrat Party believes in.
It's actually it's so true, and it's so stunning to even hear you say it, because I know it's true, and it's still crazy that they follow along like this. You talk about Tampon Tim; he's telling people how to remove the Tesla badges on the car using dental floss. I mean, that guy's a moron. What would happen if it would be like, I think Trump should have put on Truth Social. Every now and again, I look at the stock prices of Tampax products, and when I see it go down, it gives me a little boost. I mean, that maybe that would maybe that would wake Tim up, but I don't know, man. They're just lashing out. You know what, Michael? All I can say is they're wounded badly. They know they're wounded badly. And when a cornered animal is wounded, they just lash out in every direction. And that's what they're doing. And unfortunately, in order for them to ever win again and be a viable party, they're going to have to tack to the center. And their ridiculous base that is in complete control of them won't allow it. So I don't know where they go from here.
Well, I don't think they have the capability to reset and get back onto a better track. I mean, we're seeing it again with the judges and where their anger is right now.
Yeah.
They're continuing to cheer for the invasion of our country. You had a judge go out and want Trump to turn around a plane full of not just 300 illegal aliens, 300 and some odd gang members, members of Trinidad and MS-13 that were on their way to their new home in the prisons of El Salvador. These are the people they want brought back to the country. They continue to only stand for the things that destroy America, whether that's the Islamification of our country, the invasion of our country, transing our kids. They pick the most insane hills to die on, and then they wonder why public support for them continues to evaporate.
Yeah, well, they pick these hills to die on, and then they die on them. I mean,
yeah,
it is pretty stupid. But I remember years ago when the squad was a freshman class. I said on my old radio program, Right Hook Radio, I said Nancy Pelosi is going to rue the day she gave these bat crap crazy women committee seats, because they are going to take over the party. And in less than a decade, they've taken over the party. Pelosi is gone. Schumer, they're ready to hang him in effigy. They want him gone. So now who are you going to get in charge? You're going to get people like AOC. You're going to get Ilhan Omar. You're going to get Rashid Tlaib. All of these people that hate everything that America represents. That is who's going to be running the party. And the middle, the normies, as you call them, the centrists and the moderates, they're not going to go along for that ride. They may have to roll their eyes at Trump a few times, but they're certainly not going to be backing a let's go burn everything down to the ground that we don't like. I just don't see that ever happening for Democrats. They better change.
Yes, well, hopefully Ilhan Omar has been deported before we get to the 2026 elections. But yeah, the normies, the people in the middle, they want to go back to loving and celebrating America. They want to go back to, this 4th of July. They want to have hot dogs, barbecue, and be proud to be Americans again, celebrate what unites us, what brings us together, and get back on the path that we were on prior to Barack Obama, really. They want to go back to the era where the racial divides and the other things in our country were vanishing. We were slowly becoming a more cohesive, better version of the American dream. We were headed in that direction. We had the divisiveness that Obama put into the equation, and then that got put into hyperdrive afterwards, especially with the George Floyd riots. Again, when the left doesn't get what they want, they turn to violence, as we're seeing right now. And I think, unfortunately, that's what we're going to be headed towards this summer, is going to be major riots. We're going to see the craziest of the blue-haired moonbats out in the street, burning down cities and towns once again.
Yeah. And I would just say this, because I know you're about to wrap here, but I would just say this. If the Democrats ever want to be a viable political party again, when these riots that you talk about, and I have no doubt that there's a lot of open society funded groups that are planning that to happen. If these Democrats ever want to get back in American good standing, they're going to have to come out loud and quickly and denounce it all. Whether they will or not is another story. I have my doubts.
Yeah, I think that ship's already sailed, that they move in lockstep. They are the hive mind, uniparty, the Borg, whatever you want to call them. And there aren't enough of them with the cojones to step out of line with the rest of their party right now. I mean, honestly, if one of them steps out of line right now, they're just going to get beat down and they'll never win dog catcher and Walla Walla Washington.
Yeah, they need a healthy dose of toxic masculinity in that party, and they've chased it away. So you're probably right.
I hope the libertarians step up and they just take a few of these seats out in California and a few other places, and maybe we get two parties that will push our country in a better direction. Steve, I want to thank you for joining us. Where can our audience find you?
Well, you can find me, of course, on X America News every Wednesday and Friday, 4 p.m. Central Time. We do our show, The Right Hook. You can also find me on X at Right Hook 1776. And you can also find me at Steve Hook on Facebook as well, Mike. But thanks for having me, buddy. It was a real pleasure, man, as always.
Well, thank you for being here. And again, to our audience, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Glazov Gang. Remind you that this is a fan-generated show. We rely on your support from your generous donations. And one of the best ways that you can make those is by going to jamieglazov.com and make a contribution there so that Dr. Jamie Glazov can continue bringing you hard-hitting interviews in the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. So until next time, thank you again, and we'll see you back next week.
This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe